Welcome. It is Thursday night. This is the Horror Syndicate Discourse, and this is where you want to be. If you're a first-time viewer, long-time admirer, hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, tell your friends about us on Facebook because, we're kind of cool. Maybe not. I don't know. So tonight we're going to talk about the movie Shocker from '89, Wes Craven. Is it a classic? I guess we'll get into that. Tonight we've got Seth T. Miller with us as usual. Seth, how you doing, buddy? Oh, the posters are back.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I got them up there permanently now.
Did you just take some liquid nail and put it on the back of them and just slam them against the wall? Because that's what I would have done.
I found the screws I needed to drill into the walls. It took a lot of swearing and sweating.
There we go. I mean, that's how any project goes, isn't it? It should go anyway.
I was turning mean that night.
Turning into the Wolfman, I'm guessing.
That's right.
We've got Keith with us today. Very angelic. How are you doing, buddy?
Angelic.
Yeah.
Tired.
There's somebody over your shoulder.
As always. Always.
Yeah. Is it because you work in a place where it's like 95 degrees all the time?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Or like our instruments in the lab are like breaking because it's so hot.
Oh, gross, man. Yeah, we've got some kind of epic humidity here in the Midwest, which I'm sure Nate feels too. Living in how do you pronounce
Louisville. Yeah, Louisville, it's like the Ohio Valley, so we're in a valley, so like allergies and humidity is fucking murder here.
Yep.
So my son's watching.
That's why Waverly Hills Sanatorium was built here, because tuberculosis was such an awful thing for this area because of the respiratory.
And that's why he moved to Arizona too. Right?
Yep.
I like your foot. Did you guys see that video I sent you that I felt like I needed to send you about Wednesday? It's hump day. It's so dumb, but I was like, everybody needs to see how dumb this is. Anyway, my son is watching, which I don't know why. He's got other things to do with the game. I'm here. Let's talk. Let's talk. James Moss, do you like Shocker?
Let's do it.
I live in southern Tennessee, and it's a hot box down here. It's a hot box everywhere. We were supposed to get some rain today. It didn't happen, and it's just... Ugh. Anyway, October's coming. Nate, I didn't announce you. Nathan Thomas Miller is here today. How are we doing?
Yeah.
We reeled him back.
Yeah, they said that they were going to... I was supposed to be done, like just the regular, like often guest, and then they said, hey, let's do Shocker. I'm like...
Your sons are bitches!
You're pulling me back in like I'm Carlito or Godfather or whatever.
Godfather.
One of those Al Pacino roles.
Well, I mean, you're going to make guest appearances every now and again. This is kind of that. Next week, we're doing The Descent. So, no, I know you want to do that one, too. Well, I want to make sure you get time to enjoy the Thursdays off. So whenever you want to do The Descent, you tell us. So how about that?
All right.
Yeah. Because I do want to get into those, but I feel like that would be a great time for cooler weather, too, for some reason, being in the cave and, all that stuff.
Yeah. Too hot for this.
Yeah, it's Texas chainsaw weather right now. So, but we did that last year. Oh, good for you. It's rainy there. Thank you for that. Yes, I like the Wes Craven. So yeah, let us know what you think of Shocker in the comments. We'll try to get to your comments. We'll post them up. We'll post them up for sure. And maybe Jared will join us at some point this evening because Jared's the big fan here of the Shocker movie. I know he has ties with his uncle. He used to come over and watch it with him. And, well, let's just get into it. I'm going to start tonight. Usually I ask you guys, hey, Kathy, how you doing? How you guys feel about it. So I saw Shocker in the early 90s, probably right when it came out in VHS. And I didn't like it back then. I was like, I've never been a director guy. Like, I know, Nate, like, you love certain directors and you're a big fan of, you used to tell me.
Yeah, but not many directors are always a hit. Like Craven's definitely a hit or miss guy.
Yeah, he is. It's starting to show now later in life. But he was one of those ones for me because, I was going to say, you used to say Craven was your father and Carpenter was or something like that.
Oh, when I said we talk about the two big guys, I always say they're two different teachers for me. Like they're both good, but they're good at what they do particularly. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if my son's trolling us or what he's doing. Go play Arkham City or Arkham Knight or something like that. But hit the like button first. Anyway, yeah. So I just didn't care for it, and I didn't watch it again until 2016 because it's one of those movies that I just didn't connect with. And I watched it with my wife, who I've always said kind of sways the way I think of things, and I didn't like it again. So I watched it last night, and guess what, guys?
Loved it.
You got a copy. You got a copy.
Loathed it. I
You
do
got
not
a
like
copy
Shocker.
available for giveaway.
I do. I have. First of all, I'm going to get it signed by Nate because he did the art, and then I'm going to give it away for $50,000. No, I mean it's nice piece to have in the collection for sure. Scream Factory. I do want to get. I did not get a chance to get into. There's a lot of good commentary. There's a commentary on here with Wes Craven, and then there's some good special features I do want to watch, and maybe that'll help me a little bit. But I don't know. I'm just not big on Shocker. Who is the bigger Shocker fan? I think Nate might be. I know Keith. You said you really liked it a lot, but
Yeah,
first impressions.
Keith just watched it, so let Keith go.
I did just watch it.
Tell us your first impressions for sure.
Well, I mean, I've heard about the movie forever, and I've seen the cover forever, and I just never watched it. But I needed something to watch the other day, and I was like, "Fuck it, we're finally gonna watch this." I've heard about how bad it is.
My son is watching.
I'm sorry.
You just said fuck.
Tell your son to go do something else.
I'm joking. He's heard me say it tons, plenty. So,
but no, I mean, I really liked it. I mean, there is some like bad stuff in it. Like I even sent to you guys a screenshot of that cop who's dead, and he's like stiff as a board, and his eyes are open, and I'm like, this is not how people die. But no, like my big thing with movies is characters. Like, if there's a character I really like even if they're a bad guy or a good guy, if there's someone who's like not really connect, just like they're over the top like characters.
Well, I mean, connect with the movie because of the character.
Yeah, but like the guy Shocker, I can't remember his actual name because Horace. He's a character. Like, he's just over the top and fun, and that made me interested in it. And I think it made it better. I think if that actor wasn't playing Horace and Horace wasn't the way he was, I probably wouldn't like the movie as much. But I think I like the movie more because I feel like it has a lot of potential in it. Like, if you took out a couple things, like, it could be like an actual serious, probably not underrated, like top shelf like slasher film. And I know it has a lot of things compared to like Nightmare. But
yeah, actually, Seth had a pretty interesting thought about that. Yes, did you guys get to see that message he left about a couple?
Say it was like it's close to a prequel or something.
Yeah, Seth, indulge us with your thoughts.
Oh, well, basically what I said was it was a rewrite away from being a Nightmare on Elm Street prequel. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of like connective tissue to Nightmare on Elm Street, and when I was watching it last night, I was like, parts of this, like if he did make this as a Street prequel, it'd be pretty cool, to start off with, Freddy doing the killing, getting caught, getting killed, and then coming back, going after the person who caught him, and then of course, the cop's name is Donald.
Yeah.
And, so it seemed to me like it was pretty close to Nightmare on Elm Street, but not as good. I like Shocker. I've always liked it. It's not one of my favorite Wes Craven movies for sure. I think it's got a lot of problems. I think it's really not clear on the rules, the execution of the story. Execution pun. I got dad jokes.
Yes.
I feel like the story could have been better. I think there's a lot of potential with Shocker. It's one of those movies where I would like to see it get remade, because I know it's taboo to want to remake, but there's a lot of potential with Shocker to be really good.
Mm-hmm. See, I want a direct sequel.
Yeah, that's the thing with Shocker. Is there's like Ray even said it. There's a good movie there.
Yeah.
But there's so many problems that keep it from being great. Like it is, and it's completely Nightmare on Elm Street, because Wes was making it to capitalize on Nightmare on Elm Street, because he gave away Freddy to New Line. And so he was trying to get in on that. He was trying to create a franchise and create another Freddy. And he really does like plagiarize himself constantly in the movie, because like, even the opening scene is just like Freddy building his glove. You see Horace working on the TV, and it's very similar to that. Yeah. And also, like Wes even said, like the whole premise of Horace Pinker and what's going on is like, all right, so Freddy controls your dreams at night when you're asleep. Horace controls you during your daydreaming, because when people watch television, they daydream, they zone out. And it's like, so that's the boogeyman of that daydreaming world of television. And like the movie really focuses on the whole television and violence and what we see on television and the things we see. Because, I mean, all the footage you're seeing in the opening titles and through the whole movie, you're seeing like the Hindenburg crashing and rioting and the Vietnam War and the atomic bombing and all these atrocities and violence that we see on television that kind of desensitizes us. And Horace is a representation of that evil and that violence that we see on television all the time. And he's the personification of the evil within television and our daydreaming of it. And it got that classic Wes Craven kind of social commentary philosophy that he's so good at. The problem with the movie is tone. Really is tone, because tone is like a director's biggest responsibility. And you've got this extremely violent character like Horace. Like Keith said, I love Horace Pinker, and I love Mitch Pileggi's performance and his look, his costume, everything about him. I love him. And it's like, God, if he had been in this is a guy who murders entire families, and he murders like prolifically. Like he is constantly killing people and just invading people's homes like television.
He's killing machines.
Television. Yep. And he murders your family because families watch television together. So it's like he's this very smart. It's a very smart creation that Wes pulled out, but he let his humor and his satirizing himself in some ways kind of muddy up everything.
Yeah, the movie is like a tonal roller coaster, because it'll be like pretty serious and dark, and then it just like makes a weird left turn, and then it gets back on that path, and then it does another one of those, and then it gets back on the path.
Yeah, even like during the commentary, like when he turns into the Barca Lounger, he's like,
that was the weirdest part of that fucking movie.
He said this was an experimental movie, and maybe I went a little too whimsical. Some of this stuff, because some of the stuff it goes a little too funny, and it's like what are you doing in this movie?
The worst part about that were the eyes the little eyeballs. I was like, come on, what is that?
Well, it makes me think of like at that same time we had Pee-wee's Playhouse, made me think of Cherry and all that.
See, my biggest problem with the movie in whole was the girlfriend, the whole like girlfriend ghost aspect.
Oh my god, yeah,
that's like my biggest problem with the whole movie.
I'm glad you said that, because that was a huge issue for me. Like
it made zero sense.
Yeah, and well, she also had some kind of weird control over Horace, right? Like he was like afraid of her. Like she stood in front of Peter Berg, whatever his name is. And he was kind of backing off on her, and her necklace that he gave her that day that she died is the key. It
was very weird. I mean, it was cool. I liked the part at like when he's out the lake and like you see all of his victims. Like that was fine with me. Like that the victims are all there, but why wouldn't they all have the same power?
Yeah.
Like, is it because they're true love or something? Like, it made no sense to me at all.
Did I miss something at some point?
That's how I felt when I watched it. I was like, did I miss some kind of story point?
By the end, when they're, going through every channel on TV, which was the worst, did they say that Jonathan was Horace's son?
Yeah. Well, he says that when he's in the electric chair, which I actually liked that. I liked the way it was revealed.
I must have missed that reveal in the electric chair, because he said that at the end. I'm like, and here we go. James says, I'm like, what the fuck? What did I miss? You know?
Yeah. When they go to see him get electrocuted, like he says, he like tells a story about like someone's Don stopping him from like beating his mom or something like that, and like you didn't know if it was a lie or not a lie because the movie led you on with it.
Yeah, the whole fatherhood thing of Horace being Jonathan's biological father, because he says it. You shot me in the leg. You shot me in the knee. That's why he has the limp, because he was beating his mother, and he picked up the gun and shot his knee. But really, a lot of it is like about fathers and son relationships in the movie. And Wes's father was someone who scared the shit out of him. His father was a very hard, scary man, and so he's in turn with his children been very loving and the opposite of how his dad treated him. And that's what the whole movie is. It's like Jonathan is afraid that he maybe has Horace's violence in him, or I'm part of that. And he was
showing it a little bit too.
Yeah, he does. And and what's funny is I caught it today. It's like there's a little bit of Return of the Jedi in the end of this movie where he takes the knife and throws it down and says, "I'm not like you." I mean, he's basically saying, "I'm not evil like you, Vader." You know, it's like I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to follow in your footsteps. You may be evil, but I don't. That doesn't make me evil. I have will. I have the choice.
I'll say I liked the father thing too, because it made more sense to be like, this is why he can like visit him in his like daydreams or whatever. Like all the spells Horace is doing somehow connects through his bloodline or something. Like that's how I made sense of it in my head, anyways.
Yeah, that's how he's able to see it.
Yeah, but no, like the girlfriend thing was my biggest issue with the movie. But like everything else, like. My favorite part, it's really stupid part, is whenever Horace goes in the little girl.
I was just thinking about it. Her limp was so great, dragging that foot around.
Well, see, that was another thing in my head. I was like, why would he be limping? Because he doesn't have a limp. But then I was like, well, it's probably like muscle memory. He's so used to limping that he just limps, no matter what body he's in.
Yeah, what he did when he was in the cop from Jason Lives' body.
Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, is that the turd?
You bang.
You bang.
Yeah, like the limp. I found out that the limp, like Mitch had worked out a better limp than that, but they filmed the little girl doing it first. So he had to do what she did.
And she was amazing. Let's face it, she was the best part of the movie.
It looks funny. It does.
Well, it does, but I mean, it's a little
limp.
It's a little girl acting, but I mean, she was a fantastic. I love that scene with her. She gets on that fucking backhoe and starts like she grabs some of the sand. I love that scene. That was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. The whole chase in the park.
The limp is a little too mummy, old school gothic mummy.
Well, it's like the Forrest Gump thing, but for cheesy 80s like 90s horror movies. Because Tom Hanks had a voice down for Forrest, and then the little kid's voice was better, so he did his.
That's
but
true.
now Horace had to copy the little girl, but it was shitty. I want a direct sequel. I want like a Blumhouse direct sequel to this movie, and I even have an idea for it too.
What is it?
Okay, so like he gets put into the TV world, right? And then at the end, like he gets trapped in that room, and he's like pretty much thrown into the airways, right? So we make a direct sequel, but it's set in 2009 when we stopped doing analog TV and went to digital, which frees up the airways, which allows Horace to find like all the pieces of himself to be able to come back. I don't know. I thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
I want the original actors back. Horace Pixel. Get the pin going.
He's like, I aged.
I think it'd be great, but then they'd actually make it like serious.
There's your fan film idea right there.
God. I mean, the visuals would look better.
I wish we had got more Horace Pinker, because I thought the character was awesome. But really, it came at that year. I always say '89 was the death of the slasher film.
It was.
And like at that point, slashers were going. They'd run their course. They'd been around for 12 years, 10, 11 years at that point. So it was the end, and really everything started to die off after that until Scream came out.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, watching that movie, and I after I was done, so I didn't like it, obviously, but I did. I'm like, there probably was like a way to make this a 4 or 5 movie franchise. You know, I think they did miss out on that, and you're probably right. I mean, the '89 movies are all pretty bad. I mean, I like most of them, especially Jason Takes Manhattan. Dream Child, yeah, come on, Dream Child's not
It's the
bad,
worst.
but it's one of the worst, you know. And same thing with the Revenge of Michael Myers. With
The difference of the best thing about Dream Child is it has a visionary director. Like it's
very visual, yeah.
Very good filmmaker who went on to do big films. Where the Nightmare films always kind of had, like Chuck Russell went on to do better films.
Rennie Harlan,
Rennie Harlan, and Stephen Hopkins.
Wes Craven went on to do Shocker.
But they were all hurt by just being money grabs and being rushed to get them done before the money stopped pouring in. Because I mean, really, like. If anybody survived beyond that, maybe Chucky. He kind of had a good run for a few years, but the other ones were going downhill. But the thing was, Chucky tapped into something that was kind of unique and funny and different than what had been around.
Chucky was a possession movie, slasher movie. It was all kinds of things.
Comedy,
doll movie, comedy. Yeah, it touched on so many levels. I mean, and really at the root of it all, it's a fucking killer doll.
Well, I think the thing with Chucky is it like evolved with the times.
Yeah.
The other ones kind of just kept trying to stick to the formula with throwing like a little bit extra spice in there that didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the soundtrack.
Yeah, everybody was talking about the soundtrack. Yeah, talk about that. I didn't care for it.
What?
Damn it, Ray!
Well, to talk about the soundtrack, you have to talk about who produced this movie, which was Shep Gordon, who is Alice Cooper's manager. Has been Alice Cooper's manager forever. And so Shep wanted to he found that he was already making movies and producing films, but he saw that horror films were like the best profiting thing. So he actually contacted John Carpenter and Wes Craven to produce, I think, 4 movies. And they did what? They Live and Shocker
Prince
and
of
The People Under the Stairs and Prince of Darkness. And so, of course, Alice comes with that. So that's probably why you get Alice and Prince of Darkness, and you get Alice and connection to this, because Alice did a lot of this music. And at that time, right before that, I think it was maybe 88 or 89 that Alice Cooper did the Trash album. It had Poison. It's like one of his biggest hits after the original 70s. Yeah, it's a great album. He wrote, and the producer and writer of that album was Desmond Child, who had, made Bon Jovi huge and was like a big songwriter and producer. So he was the producer of the album. So the album has, like, they reached out. Of course, Alice is on there. He created a super group called the Dudes of Wrath, where you've got guys from Kiss, you got Paul Stanley singing, you've got Alice Cooper singing, you got all these cool songs. And then my favorite is the Dangerous Toys song, that Demon Bell, that plays when they're chasing each other through the TV sequence. I love that song. It's the soundtrack.
Why didn't they? I'm confused as why they didn't just use Alice Cooper's "No More Mr. Nice Guys." They used Megadeth, and it was awful to me. I love Megadeth. I'm a big Megadeth guy.
I love Alice and Megadeth, but I totally would rather hear Alice. But the thing is, that was their song to get people to buy the album. Like, No More Mr. Nice Guy was a tagline they used, and they say it in the movie, No More Mr. Nice Guy. So I think it was just, hey, let's freshen it up. Because a lot of movie soundtracks just do a lot of covers a lot of times. I think there's actually 2 covers on that album.
The Crow movies, I think, had a lot of covers on their soundtracks, because those were good soundtracks, the Crow soundtracks.
Yeah, it's a big part of that. I mean, again, we're in that at the height, the late 80s, the height of hair metal and heavy metal and thrash, and like all these bands like Metallica finally did their first video the year before, and like so thrash was starting to come in more, and then Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard and all these bands were on top of the world at that time.
Who's here?
It's Jared.
Mr. Pinker.
Jared, you can yell at Ray and his blasphemy.
It's fine.
He knows.
He doesn't like the soundtrack.
What?
Okay, my biggest complaint. Let me backtrack. Okay, let me backtrack. My biggest complaint is Megadeth's cover of "No More Mr. Nice Guy." I don't like it at all. It's awful. When they start playing, I was like, yeah, and then I heard Dave Mustaine. I was like, oh, no, this is not good because the music, it wasn't that much different. I thought, well, this is just an updated version for 1989. But then I looked it up. I was like, Megadeth, what are you doing? But whatever.
I thought it was a good highlight for the soundtrack. Is that what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, we're on music. You missed everything. We're about to wrap it up.
We're done, man.
I'm joking.
I am the sword. You are the stove.
That was a song that was covered, right? That was like I think they said one of the guys that played for Kiss wrote that song, and they didn't put it on the Kiss album. So they put it on this one. Which just sucks. It's like, that's a great song.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, sure Gene has something to say about that.
Have you guys brought up the Dudes of Wrath already?
Yeah. Nathan just did.
Yeah, he touched on it a bit.
You go. Embellish.
No, I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched the special feature on the Scream Team release. Like, they did a nice little...
Scream Factory.
What'd I say? Scream Team.
Scream Team, yeah, you got on the mind.
But my bad.
Scream Team's like, we wish.
Yeah. Scream Team, follow their stuff as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they did a nice special feature on the Scream release of it about that soundtrack and
the music of Shocker.
When you think about it, like the Dudes of Wrath was one of the first like super groups that came out. Like we're talking like 1989, 1990. Like you got Paul Stanley, you got Tommy Lee on drums. Like I'm sure Nate's already said this, but it's just you hear Paul Stanley singing Shocker. It's like it feels like an epic Kiss song. Like
I love that
Tommy
opening.
Lee on the drums. Like
You got like isn't Sarso on the guitar or something on that one? It's like you got guitars from Kiss. You got all these. Yeah, it's a total super group. But yeah, I love that theme song that Paul Stanley's singing on that Shocker theme song in the very beginning. Just that. It's got great. Like sometimes heavy metal and horror went very synonymous with each other because so much of heavy metal is Satan is all that stuff. Yeah. So, but sometimes heavy metal music in movies doesn't work. You know, sometimes it's like this weird thing. So, but this I think it fit with this movie because of the television theme, the electronic theme, the character of Horace being so aggressive. He's an aggressive character. That's one of the, like we talked about Horace briefly. This is a guy who, like Freddy, really savors what he does. He loves killing people. He loves cutting people up. He brags about it. This is a guy who has no remorse, no apologies. When he goes to the electric chair, he's not like begging. He's like, "Fuck it, kill me, fuckers. Let's get it on." You know, it's like, whatever. You know, and that speech he says to Jonathan, that whole thing, like that's a great. It's a dark scene again. It's like this tone. If the movie had followed that tone,
if it stayed with that,
yes,
it's a really intense scene, and he does such an amazing job performing it. And it's one of my favorite scenes that there's no music. It's just him talking directly to him and saying this stuff. I love that scene. And I love the whole orange jumper and the burns on his head, little Freddy going on there.
We didn't talk about...
Sorry.
He's like drooling.
The way he's drooling when he comes like it's great. But
so we didn't talk about him in his cell doing his like
little ritual.
Yeah, his ritual of the fucking like I like how they're like he wanted a TV. Did you also give him jumper cables?
Right. How did he get
He just has jumper cables. He's like, give it
jumper cables.
Give it to me.
That's a good point.
You got it, baby. I heard he get candles and everything too.
Yeah, well, that scene was cool.
He
though,
had the
like,
jumper
when
cables up his ass. Is what happened. He didn't sit high enough and pulled him out.
I've always been Shocker.
Hey,
It's
the
a
good thing,
shocker.
yeah. The good thing is you can fold jumper cables, so man,
Well, that scene was cool though when they pull him out and he rips that guard's freaking like lip off. Like that looked great.
Yeah.
yeah, it did. There is some good. The makeup effects were really good. Like his head and especially the back of his neck towards the end. I don't know if you know, that was something I noticed towards the end of the movie. It looked really, really gory, I guess.
Now, I know a lot of us aren't big on like editing other people's movies, but I'd be really interested to see this movie like edited to where it was like, tonally matched across the board, just to see what it would be like.
I think it would be because I thought about that too. Like with a different editing job, this movie could rock. And one of the things I would do is remove the score because I'm not a fan of the score. I think the score is way too distracting. It's like it's really loud and invasive. Mm-hmm. It's like it's just in your it just feels. There's moments where the score is really nice. Like I love the music where he sees her in the water, and this kind of the more romantic, epic kind of sound. Or even I love the scene at the end where he walks out with all the neighbors and they're looking at the sky.
Yeah,
you see those stars. That's a beautiful scene.
That was a very cable guy scene to me. Like none of them have TV or power anymore, so they're all outside and.
Hey, the movie's got a lot of things going. I mean, the cinematographer is Jacques Haken, who shot Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2. And it has that same look to it. A lot of the blue lighting. So it has the classic Elm Street, Wes Craven, early 80s, mid 80s look. I'd like to have seen, and sometimes the music even kind of reflects Elm Street some moments.
Yeah.
But overall, I kind of felt the music was a little too much at times. Mm-hmm. That kind of, it's not a bad score. It's just very distracting.
I don't remember it.
It's a lot of noise. And you talked about Peter Berg. Like that was the other thing. I think like this is Peter's like second movie. I think maybe his first starring role, and he's extremely stiff. He's like, I think a lot of it has to do with Peter's voice. If you have a voice like that, it's his voice kind of seems like just level, like straight. There's not a lot of inflection. He feels like he has the same expression and sound. It's very
monotone.
Very monotone to where like it's like there's no up and down in his performance. It's always like he's got the same look on his face, the same. It's very sincere. He's not terrible. It's just very dull, I guess, is what the word is. It's like there's something dull about it. And like you talked about Cammie, who plays the girlfriend, she's like so low. Everything's like a whisper with her. When she talks, I'm like, does that girl have any like amplification in her voice? Because it's always like this. We've been dating for 5 months. We haven't had sex yet, although we're living together in college. And like she never speaks very loudly. It's kind of like so. Those are our two kind of lead characters, and I don't really enjoy them much. And I think that's a problem. Like we
watch the movie for Pinker.
we get Heather Langenkamp in it, and unfortunately she's a dead body in the opening, and that's all we get. We could have had her as a lead or something.
Yeah, like Pinker and then like Don were like the best characters.
Yeah, Don, like Michael Murphy is like a great actor. Did all of Woody Allen movies and a bunch of great films in the 60s.
Yeah,
and 70s.
he's the mayor of Gotham in Batman Returns.
Yeah, and then you got I really like the guy that plays what's his name? Brooks. Michael Brooks, the guy that plays Rhino.
Oh, you took Rhino? Yeah, I liked Rhino.
Not Rhino's. Of course, you got Ted Raimi in there playing Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Which Wes.
Oh, the coach was pretty good too.
Yeah, the coach was cool. So there's some
he was in Over the Top.
There's some good supporting roles in there.
Mm-hmm.
But the lead, Peter, is definitely a better filmmaker. This is a guy that's, one of the big filmmakers out there. I mean, Friday Night Lights and Yeah,
Mhm.
the Lone Survivor, probably my favorite thing he's done. But yeah, the guy was definitely more cut out for behind the camera.
Yeah, everything
Well,
he's done behind the camera, I preferred than seeing his face on
well, see,
screen.
where I'd never seen this movie before, and I got to that main character, like I kept looking at him. I'm like, is that Christian Slater? Is that Ethan Hawke? Like I just kept looking at him. I was like, why does he look like Gary Busey? What is happening?
You know what's funny? Nate, you mentioned I was just looking Heather Langenkamp. She was actually the same age as Peter Berg. She could have probably been the female lead in this.
Just his voice is just not cut out for, because that's what's just like. There's some part where I don't even know what the fuck he says when they're arresting Pinker, and he's like, like, what the hell did he say? You see those stars? It's like there's this. I don't know. Like voice is very important for an actor, and I don't
Count
think
Yoga.
he had it.
And Scott mentions that he's in one of Count
Michael
Yorga
Murphy.
movies.
Yeah,
Yeah, Count Yorga is way better than Blackula. Anyway.
he was in MASH. He was in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at his
Manhattan.
filmography. He's in so much stuff. But I'll remember him as the mayor of Gotham. Batman Returns. It's got baby stolen away.
So, just a possible theory on the tone. Going back to the tone, if you think about it, he was probably in development on this movie around the time Elm Street 4 came out, and there was probably some sort of pressure on him to kind of compete and to do something a little bit more fun as opposed to the darker. Do you think that's possible?
Well, yeah, like
Probably.
at that time, at that time, that's how all slashers were.
Because
Jason was corny.
Well, yeah, and well, especially Freddy at that point. They ditched Craven's darker script for 3, went with more fun, and 3 and 4 were big hits for the Elm Street series. So, maybe the reason why he added a lot of the humor and a lot of the fun tone was to just really try to capitalize on that of what audiences wanted.
I think it's important to mention that he had final cut and control of this film. The studio had no interference. Like he was able to make this movie what he wanted to make it. And I think he's even like, if you listen to this commentary, he admits many times maybe my humor, and because everybody says he's a really funny guy and a lighthearted guy, and he said maybe I shouldn't have put so much humor in this as I did, but I think he was probably just like, hey, I've got full control. I don't have to get the permission from anybody. Let's just have fun, and try that and do that. And again, like you have to know tone. Like I know I've been on films where someone will make a suggestion and it's like, that's funny. That's really funny. That's great. That would be great. And you go, yeah, let's do that. And the director and me goes, wait a minute, this doesn't fit. This will stick out like a sore thumb. That's not the movie we're making. It's hilarious. It's a great idea. I just had like that on the last shoot I was on. The actors came to me with an idea for something they wanted to do, and I said, that's a beautiful scene, but the only place it can go is at the very beginning of the movie, and the opening shot is this, and that has to be the opening shot. So I would have nowhere to put it. I literally have nowhere to put it. And I said, it's not a bad idea. It just doesn't. You know your movie. You know what you're supposed to do. So you have to be able to say, got a great idea. It doesn't work for the film. It won't fit. And go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's kind of that's kind of along the lines I was thinking of. I mean, even with full creative control, it's still collaborative. I mean, I'm sure his producers had notes for him when he was reading the script, and he was taking in what people were suggesting, maybe it was suggested to have a little bit more. I don't know, speculating.
Mm-hmm.
That could be.
I mean, we get a great scene. It's totally. He kind of got there before. It reminded me of like the scene in Natural Born Killers with the whole sitcom family, like the Rodney Dangerfield, where they go into the couch potato house and they're fighting, and the lady's on the couch. Oh, what's my tree? And get him, honey. That was the most absurd thing. That lady did not react like a normal person whatsoever. Yeah, and it's totally like it's completely satirizing and making a comment on fat couch potato people who are, and it's like it looks like a movie set. It looked like all the kids are overweight. You know,
but it's a pivotal scene because he gets to that remote.
So. Yeah,
it is.
And then you get the Timothy Leary, the cameos of this movie. Timothy Leary is a TV evangelist.
John Tesh.
And John Tesh and Heather Langenkamp, we talked about, played one of the bodies. Kane Roberts, who was Alice's guitarist at the time, the big muscle-bound guy, the construction worker who.
Oh, that was him?
That was Kane Roberts. Oh. Yeah, that was he played guitar for Alice back in the mid-'80s.
Why didn't he kill Jonathan with the pickaxe, by the way, instead of throwing it into the fucking lake?
He threw the necklace into the lake.
With the pickaxe. He could have killed him with the pickaxe. Instead, he gets this tiny little knife. It's
well, true.
Get the fuck out of here with this.
Well, he wanted to savor it, maybe. I don't know. Again, this movie doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes. That park scene lasted an eternity.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. We get two of Wes's children are both in it. The girl,
Jogger was his son, right?
Jogger was his son, Jonathan, who the character is named after. And the guy who's the executioner is Bruce Wagner, who co-wrote Dream Warriors with Wes, and was also in a lot of people know like Steve Savage movies. He was in One Crazy Summer. He was the uncle who was always trying to win the game. The Richard.
Shit!
Yeah, that's it. Like
shit.
Uncle Frank or something like that. Yeah, and he was also in his movie. I haven't
seen that movie in forever.
How to Get into College, where he's doing the test, and they had A and B. He was one of the two, A and B. I think him and the guy that plays SpongeBob, I think, are the two A and B. I think Tom Kenny and Bruce Wagner were those guys. So it was kind of cool to see him. He said apparently he wanted to die in a Wes Craven movie, so let's put him in Shocker.
I'm just going to jump in because I was like a half hour late, but I know we talked a couple weeks back about like the MTV generation. Like this movie catered to that generation.
This was the epitome of the MTV generation.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with the music.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many movies back then had a full lineup? That was before. Like I keep thinking Crow and the Blade soundtrack and stuff like that had just all these like kind of big name rockers on it. But this one kind of is an early one in that, isn't it? Because I mean, of course, you have Vinnie Vincent, Invasion, and Dream Master. You maybe have one or two songs on a soundtrack or something like that. But
yeah, because it really kind of started with well, of course, you had Simon and Garfunkel doing, The Graduate years and years earlier, but Saturday Night Fever is one of the biggest selling albums of all time, and that's what really made Hollywood say we need a theme song. So a lot of movies after Saturday Night Live or Saturday Night Fever would have a theme song to accompany it to sell records because they could make a lot of money off that. So, but you're right, like this movie to have a whole album dedicated. This is one of the early ones, but it became a real normal thing in the 90s, as you pointed out, with Crow and a lot of the Judgment Night, and they became a big thing. Yeah, where like the album.
Didn't Maximum Overdrive do that too?
Well, even like
Maximum Overdrive was all AC/DC.
AC/DC, but it got to the point where sometimes the soundtracks are better than the film, like Escape from LA.
Look at this fucking.
I mean, you got Escape from LA. It's not a great movie, but you got freaking Clutch and
Rob Zombie.
Who else is on there? Rob Zombie, and you have a lot of the Toadies, and there's a lot of great.
I'm your Pokemon.
Yeah. So it became a big normal thing in the 90s for the accompanied soundtracks, where again a lot of covers. Like one of my favorites was "I Know What You Did Last Summer" soundtrack, which is just a bunch of covers of like Beatles songs and Deep Purple songs and Blue Oyster Cult songs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Typo Negative cover of Summer Breeze is awesome.
Yeah.
And to be honest, for someone my age, like the movies having those kind of soundtracks with me growing up, like that's how I learned about a lot of music.
Yeah,
Because
for
it was
sure.
just in movies.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Butthole Surfers are on the Escape from LA.
Yes.
I'm looking at
Butthole
Tori
Surfers
Amos.
did a
I mean,
lot.
where else are you gonna find the Butthole Surfers with Tori Amos on the same album? With Sugar Ray, also, by the way. So, I'm just saying. Oh man. I'm hungry.
So how many of you guys would want a remake or a sequel of this?
I would like a remake. I don't think you could sequelize this one. I think
okay,
because it's a great concept and it's a great villain. My only hang up would be like the Robert Englund thing. Who plays Horace Pinker? Because
that's what I was gonna say.
Same guy. Bring it back. He's still acting.
Yeah, he could do it. Really.
He's almost 70.
I met him at Horror Round, and he could do it.
How old is he now? Is he 70?
I was gonna say he's got to be almost 70.
He was like 35 maybe when he did it.
Let's see, and here's how
he was
only fixed that.
He was only like 10 years older than Peter Berg at the time, playing his dad. So I think he was like
Looking
35, 36, 37.
Don't up-age him. He's 69.
So he's probably he's probably in his 60s now.
Now, if he looks 60, like that could be a problem. Which how you fix it is you go off of like the Golden State Killer, and so like he used to kill, and now they caught up to him and found him, and that's just how you fix that.
Yeah, I mean,
if he still looks good, then he can just play a younger person.
He doesn't really need to be a certain age if you think about it, because
he doesn't. But you don't want him being like decrepit looking.
Well, wasn't he in something recently?
No, but
He's
I think
Supernatural.
I think if they were to redo this movie, they could make it fucking terrifying.
Yes.
Because like when you guys watch the first 30 minutes of the movie, it's a legit horror movie. Yeah, it starts going a little AWOL with everything else after that with the last 2 acts. But the first part of it, that was a legit horror movie, and they can still remake it with that same intensity all the way through.
Well, I mean, just the part when the cops come to like raid his TV shop, and he grabs that cop like while he's behind the shelf.
Yeah,
and they have that big scene where the blood just spills out from underneath the shelf. Like that's a totally different movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The first act alone is a really good horror movie.
Well, that's what we were talking about.
That's all everybody else remembers. The last 2/3 of the movie.
Not me. I remember that goddamn channel changing part. That's terrible. I thought that was the worst.
I mean, some of the parts were kind of bad, but it was fun.
I don't like it.
Like it doesn't look that bad, to be honest, though. Actually, like the way they're cropped in, it doesn't look
some of them
terrible.
Look really bad.
That's another thing to bring up is effects. The effects are kind of, but
they're hit and miss.
They're made for TV effects.
They had the original plan that they used didn't work, and they had to do all the effects in 2 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah. So they're not perfect, and he's like because the original plan didn't work. It looks better than Silver Bullet. It's got Jock Haven.
I can't find something that you'll say Silver Bullet's better than.
There's a lot of movies Silver Bullet's better than.
Name one for me. I need a redemption.
Birdemic. It's the worst movie ever made.
No, don't go that low.
Sleepaway Camp.
Oh man, I was just thinking about watching all 3 of those. I like those movies.
Well, it's better than all 3 of those.
I've only seen the first one of that, and I didn't care.
That's putting your basement a little low, okay?
Right. 2 and 3 are really bad, but they're fun. Lots of movies.
Well, Silver Bullet's a case of a great story with a bad execution.
I think there were 5 Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, I agree, but maybe it's just because of the nostalgia that I love Silver Bullet so much. But if anybody's wondering what the hell we're talking about, go watch our commentary of Silver Bullet. Nate just does like an after-school special, and I'm like, this is my favorite werewolf movie.
I still love it though. You have to be honest. Like I love the movie, but it's not great. Just like this movie, I love Shocker.
Exactly.
It's a bad movie. I will I will not argue that it is great. It is not great. It has greatness in its bones,
in it.
But it is when what you see is like littered with problems and littered with issues.
It definitely has greatness anticipated for sure. Like I can agree with that totally.
Well, Jared, while I'm thinking about it, tell us what is it about the movie that, like, we were early talking about first impressions, because Keith just saw it a couple days ago and just loved it. What were, like, I know you said you saw it and you bonded with your uncle over it. What else is keeping you coming back for this one?
It's kind of like what I was saying earlier. It has that MTV mentality, but ultimately what brings me back is the soundtrack over and over and over and over and over again. But it's not Peter Berg as the main character. It's just the over ideal. Horace Pinker as a monster. That's what brings me back every time. Like, it's not anything else. Horace Pinker.
That's the movie. Sorry.
Ah.
So last night I was trying to think of a movie where a guy was able to touch somebody and, like, his soul was able to transfer into that person, and they had trouble Fallen with Denzel Washington. Yeah, sorry, that just popped in my head.
I remember when that movie came out. When that movie came out, like, they just ripped off Shocker.
John Goodman's really good in that movie.
I didn't think that. I thought, well, what an original idea. Sorry,
I like that. One of the little moments I like is when, like, the Demon Bell's playing and, like, they're on the battlefield and they go,
Demon Bells.
And when Horace, like, gets in and grabs the K-bar knife off the ground, ducks out, and all of a sudden you're on the Frankenstein set.
Yeah.
The other thing that stuck out to me, like, sore thumb, maybe it's something that, like, used to be a thing that I don't know about. Why was there a ladder between two buildings?
Yes.
Like, it was just there.
It's a video game world. That's what it is. Like, Ellie and Last of Us was there earlier.
I like that fight, the rooftop fight between Horace and Jonathan. I thought that was pretty good, especially when Horace takes him and body slams his ass. I was like, what the fuck is this movie? What's going on in this movie anymore? And how?
I just took the ladder as.
Go ahead. You took the ladder as.
I was just gonna say I just took the ladder as Horace having a backup plan.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
He knew where he was going.
Go.
He probably got in that way too, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The one thing I was wondering about, so first of all, Peter Berg's character and Rhino, they're sitting in a parked car on the football field, basically. Like, what the hell is that all about? Like, who lets somebody drive their fucking car on the track on the football field? But anyways, like, wake me up at whatever time, or you know what to do, whatever.
Another Elm Street thing.
Right. Elm Street. There's a lot of Elm Street in this. But the thing is, it's like, how did the cops know where they were going? Like, did they overhear him? How they showed up at the same place, but only he should have known where that was, because he had to go into his dream to find out where Horace Pinker was. But the cops show up, like, right after they get there.
Well, it is like an apartment building. Someone probably heard, like, screams and called the cops, and they just happened to show up too.
Well, you see, as soon as Jonathan wakes up and they pull out, as soon as they pull out, the police come from around the corner. So they were waiting for Jonathan to lead them.
Oh, okay. So they were right there. Okay, I must have.
Don knew he was going to do something.
Yeah, as soon as they left the football stadium, they all followed him.
I will admit, I took a giant shit in the middle of the movie. So I might have missed that part.
Well, you didn't even know that Horace was his dad.
Yeah, so I missed that part. Yeah. Christ, do I need to watch it again?
Yes, watch it with the commentary.
I'll watch it one more time, but then I'm going to do a giveaway. Shocker, on Blu-ray.
You were on your phone the whole time, which in a remake would be everyone's got a TV in their phone, basically.
I literally did not use my phone until after the end of it. I promise, except for when I was pooping. I gotta have the phone in the bathroom when you're going to the bathroom.
Ray, just watch it again with the commentary.
Yeah, the Wes Craven commentary at least is worth.
Is there a commentary? Is it just Wes?
There's one with Wes, and then there's a new one with
the DP.
The one from the West is I listened to it this morning, and I'm pretty sure it was for a European release, because he keeps talking about. I don't know if you have this in Europe, I must have recorded this for a European release, but maybe like a laser disc or something. But the second one is just like Michael Felsher from Red Shirts, who does a lot of the features for Scream Factory, interviewing Jock Haitkin, Bob Edelman, the producer, and the composer Goldstein. I can't remember what his first name was. But it's just interviews with them. They're not really talking about what you're watching on screen at that time. It's 3 interviews with these guys about Shocker overall as the movie plays. I guess they just so you had something to watch. Maybe they didn't have video.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind with the Wes Craven. I could listen to Wes talk like all day long, really. But okay. I'll watch it with the commentary.
We will convert you.
Just like Nathan being on this show. Just when I thought I was out, you pull me back in. You sons of bitches.
There's a Shocker fan in you somewhere.
No, there's not.
Right?
After I watched it, I was like, with confidence, I can tell you I probably will never watch this again. But now
I think we just get a highlight reel of the cool parts of this all Horus. And I mean, I like the atmosphere of the scene.
Maybe I'll re-edit it.
I like the atmosphere in the beginning where they're walking. Him and his girlfriend are walking, and the kids disappear. Like the kids running this very Elm Street color.
Yeah, it's very Elm Street.
And then when they're walking on the street, the lighting that Jacques used and like the TVs are on in the background. They turn off in the windows, and you see Horace's van parked there, which has got this lamppost, this kind of exorcist shot. This lamppost. I noticed that lamppost is used often in the movie. In the park, you could see it. It's always in a dirt mountain. They built that. That's a fake one. I could tell that they just put it where they ever. It's always really somewhere.
I've never seen.
It is like if you go back and watch the movie, just look for that lamppost. It's like, especially in that part, because the other part.
Make a list of things to look for me. I'm going to watch it one more time.
It's like in the first 10 minutes of the movie, Ray.
Yeah.
Listen. That was actually one of the best parts. Was the beginning of the movie. I think Nate, you might have said that's the most memorable thing because I like the dream sequences and the way they looked and the way they felt. They felt like a dream sequence, and that did draw me in at first when I was watching it last night. I was like, okay, and then they get out of that, and it's like I saw Peter Berg, and I was like, God damn it, guys, I forgot Peter Berg was in this. I do not like him. Him and Miles Teller are very close.
Whatever. Miles Teller is nowhere near as cool as Mitch Pileggi. Come on.
Is Peter Berg? Hold on. Let me look him up.
Peter Berg. Or Peter Berg.
Ray, we can get the Shocker fan out of you. Next time you go to a convention, you need a cosplay as the Shocker.
Seth did say something in our chat that was kind of interesting about a rewrite of this.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that, but yeah, I think it would be. I think there is a Nightmare Elm movie in there for sure.
He constantly cut copies of Nightmare in this movie. You know, it's his way of reclaiming his invention, I think, is what this movie was. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to make money off of this. What?
Yeah. It's also set in Ohio as well.
Yeah.
Where's Wes Craven? He's not from Ohio, is he?
Yeah, he's from Cleveland, I think.
Is he? Cleveland.
No, but like what I mean is just like the later Elm Street movies, they eventually shifted Springwood from California to Ohio, and then because I've been for some reason like paying attention to license plates, and I noticed that with Shocker last night.
Also,
Ohio, which is
Wes in the commentary talked about he did a lot of first time things on this movie, very experimental because he'd never had that big of a budget on his films, and like the rain machine when they find the bodies, his family did. The rain's falling. He goes, "I've never had a rain machine on my movies." Like that was the first time ever. He goes, "I felt like I was making a real movie for the first time." And like the when they did the rear projection, a lot of the rear projection stuff, like when they're on the tower and they're him and his dad, they built the tower and they had a rear projection of the city. He goes, he'd never done that before. So there was a lot of first times for him on this movie, and even like
did he ever use
lucky,
those
like
again?
The fog. Well, I know it's like in the park scene where he goes to get the locket in the water. There's so much fog, and I'm like, how did they get that? Because Wes even says it. He goes, "We got lucky because there was a lot of moisture that day. It was cold, So the fog, usually when you use foggers, and it does, the fog just goes, it just evaporates or it goes, drifts off. But it just stayed there and really worked for them that day. So we got really lucky because usually it doesn't behave that way. Which I like that scene where she comes like floating through the water. They got her on like a dolly under the water in a pole to kind of float toward him.
Yeah, I like the girlfriend stuff in this movie too. It was weird, but like I said earlier about how he seemed like Jared. Do you feel like that she's at one point she blocks Jonathan from Horace getting to him? Like, what do you have any ideas what the hell's going on with it? Like, can he not be afraid of past spirits? Is it like Freddy being afraid of water or fire and Jason being, how can we use this?
True love.
True love.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I know there was another part. I was like, whenever Horace like he like debates about putting his fingers in the light socket or the power outlet to get more power, and then he starts stretching his fingers, but then he just stops and like moves his hand over with his stretched fingers. I was like, what's the point of that effect? Like, just move your hand over and stick it in the outlet.
I'm done with this. Just take it too long.
Yeah. Made no sense.
Well,
I did like
a lot of Freddy shit too. Freddy would morph and do things like turn into the chair and all that shit. It was all Freddy stuff.
I did like the thing where like Don thought his adopted son like killed the coach and Ted Raimi and all that stuff, where they're trying to like pin it on him.
Yeah, but that was him as Horace, wasn't it?
No. It was like whenever his dad or his dad comes in there and he like finds all the bodies and stuff, and then they put him in. His
foster son.
Yeah, and then they put him in the cruiser, but then Horace gets inside his body when Don's in there by himself. That's when the whole like Rhino comes and saves him, and he's like, "I'm going after him myself," and he goes all fucking crazy.
Because Don knows that Horace is his dad. I think that's the truth. I don't think he was lying, because he tells him, he knows you're a foster kid. He was getting in your head, but I think Don probably dealt with the case of that domestic dispute that ended with Horace getting shot. Although, if that were the case, you think Don would have known who Pinker was. You know?
Right.
You know, he would have been like,
right. When he
keeping his eye on that guy. Yeah.
Right.
He's no Donald Thompson, that's for sure. Which, although it feels like it's like it's the kind of the same thing. Like Nancy's parents in Elm Street are hiding this dirty secret that is Freddy Krueger, and then now Donald Parker is hiding this secret that he's a. It's kind of this movie does feel like a cheap Elm Street movie, like really bad. Like,
yeah, if it wasn't Wes's, that people would be like trashing it for it all the time.
Yeah,
just ripped off Wes Craven, didn't you?
I was like, I can't believe Wes Craven ripped off himself. Basically, it's like, did he get sued for plagiarism? Did he?
That's what style is. It's plagiarism. It's self-plagiarism.
Right.
He was wanting to try to create a new franchise.
Yeah. He didn't get.
I'm surprised
I mean,
he
if
did.
anyone could do it, it would be Craven. You know,
He did it again with Scream. Like he was trying to do it with this. It floundered and it fucked up. He did it with Scream. Like, he knew what he was doing.
What were the initial reviews? I mean, when it came out, like why didn't it get like more traction back then? Because I know in the horror community there are a lot of people that like this movie. I'm the only one.
It wasn't a hit.
Not at all.
It says Siskel and Ebert gave it a marginal thumbs up.
A marginal thumbs up.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Is that like a
Siskel
half thumbs up?
Yeah. Like, and then Ebert gave it a thumbs down.
Well, they're like us. It's like you're watching the movie and you're like, yes, and then it like makes a weird left turn and you're like, no, thank you.
There were also a lot of movies about execution before this movie.
Were there really?
The horror.
Wasn't that Tales from the Crypt episode that came out around the same time too, didn't it?
Yeah,
that was the first episode.
There was the horror show, and then there was Prison, and then there was
Prison.
Oh, Prison,
a few movies. There's a few movies with characters who were executed come back, or kind of deal.
I don't know. You should read these reviews on Wikipedia here. Like, because I felt it would have been a better movie if it had played with more rules. Didn't we say that?
Yeah, the rules are
It
kind
needed
of muddy.
rules.
Like you said, like how does she come back? What is the talisman? The whole how does that work? But at the same time, we never know how Freddy comes back and all that stuff.
Dream demons, man. It's explained in the 6th movie.
It's canon.
It's dream demons.
Dream sperm.
Yeah, but no, I think it's clear how Freddy, he comes to you in your dreams. You know that. We know that. That's it. That's the rule. He comes to you in your dreams, and then you find out later when Nancy's mom tells her about what they did to him. So he's attacking. That he's got reason and why or when.
It also ends like Nightmare with Horace is kind of pulled into the real world, like Nancy pulls Freddy into the real world, and they collapse on the bed, and then he's taking away his power. I want my brother back. Blah blah blah. He take my all that, and he basically evaporates like Freddy does at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street. Just disappears.
Jonathan should have called him shit. You're shit. You're nothing. You're shit.
Yeah. Baby brother.
So for a while, I thought Freddy was just a turd because Nancy called him shit. But yeah, did Wes just take the script of Elm Street, the original script? Well, they didn't edit this one. I'm going to take this one and make Shocker and change his name to Horace Pinker. Awful name, by the way. What's a name?
I genuinely wondered last night when I was watching.
Go ahead.
Did you cut out?
Okay.
What were you saying?
I was generally wondering, huh?
Nothing. It's you must have a little bit of a delay. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Okay. Last night when I was watching it, I was kind of wondering if this was initially an idea that Craven had that he had stored away for a long time for maybe a short period of time, maybe, of what he would do if he was to do a Elm Street prequel or something like that. Or maybe he took some unused ideas that eventually evolved when he made A Nightmare on Elm Street and then just took those raw original ideas to form this script.
A lot of that morphing stuff. A lot of that morphing stuff and all that was in the Dream Warriors, a little weird surreal stuff that was going on in his Dream Warrior script. Kind of, I could see that being salvaged in this stuff that Chuck and Frank didn't use.
And he took his notes and threw them in a blender.
Well, that was a great script.
Yeah, movie that.
But one of the things I really like about Craven's movies, and one of the things I do like about Shocker is I like his characters for the most part are sort of take charge. Jonathan pretty early on is very determined and take charge, just like Nancy is. You know what I mean? They're characters that fight back. They're not, they want to be victims. They want to do something about it. And I think he does really strong with that. And that's one of the things I did like about this one too. I don't mind Peter Berg in this movie or even in Copland. But
No, I mean that is the thing Craven has for him, because in his movies, his characters actually have characters. The other slasher films, there are characters, but they don't have any character. They're just there to be a victim, say a funny line, die, or they're there to scream, and then somehow they just win in the end by some slim chance of a miracle of picking up some weapon.
I'd rather have Rhino be the star of the movie, though. His neck. I'd love to break his neck. That part where they're like, "Hey, this is a felony." No, it's a lock. Pick it.
Was he in Law and Order or something? He was in something.
Yeah, he did something in the mid '90s, a TV show, I think he became a TV
criminal
guy.
Procedural show.
He was on.
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I did like that part where he was like, "Are we friends?" And he was like, and he's just like, "No, I don't need a friend on this." That's a weird way to tell you don't come with me.
Yeah.
Like, we're not
you're not my
friends.
friend on this. It's like, what?
It's like he was like telling a dog to like run away. He's like, I don't want you anymore.
Like, Peter Berg, come on, relax.
I mentioned that Mitch read for the coach part originally.
Really?
Yeah, and then they had him read for Horace, and he scared the shit out of the producer lady. I can't remember her name. It was like they said, just Mitch has a lot of power when he's in a room. There's just something about him. And he does. Like, that's one thing I remember is like he's scary. He really is. Like, there's something scary about him in this film. Like, just his presence, the stare that he has.
His eye contact. Yeah.
Yeah, like this guy doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care if he gets killed or hurt or whatever. He just enjoys it, which is like Freddy Krueger, because a lot of the slasher characters that were famous, Jason is really a sympathetic character, and Michael is not human at all. But Freddy and Horace Pinker are both awful human beings, sociopathic psychopaths who take pleasure in killing and tearing people apart, tearing children apart, murdering whole families. And again, it's almost every night the news is reporting another family was butchered last night. This guy's like just killing people like a mad dog. And like,
I thought it was.
What? Go ahead.
Oh, you were saying something?
Well, I was like, talking about the scene where he finds his girlfriend dead, like just the blood everywhere and the messages and the pool of blood. It's like, holy fuck! Why did you let him go in there?
Yeah.
Those police officers on the scene were terrible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
They
Seth.
all die like this.
Oh, on Mitch Pileggi himself, like, it was interesting seeing him in this movie because I saw this when I was young, but it was after I was a really big fan of the X-Files. So like I knew him as like sort of as the calm
Skinner.
and collected Skinner, and then when I'm a kid and then I see him play this really sadistic serial killer. It was kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, because in person,
I was so
he's
used
more
to
like
him being a supportive character, a nice guy.
yeah.
And
in this, he's a completely 180, different guy.
Yeah.
I would say Pinker's almost like if you took Freddy and Michael Myers and put them together a little bit, because he's got that like character over the top like punchline stuff of Freddy, but he's got that like no reason for killing, just killing machine thing like Michael has, where it's just there's a family, I'm killing them. Like no rhyme or reason thing behind him.
He just did
kind
it
of like
for
that
pure
though.
joy, right?
He reminds me of guys. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was saying he reminds me like I think I used to get him mixed up with is it James Foley, the guy who was a Beverly Hills Cop, and like we're No Angels, kind of has a De Niro kind of thing going. Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought.
I don't know those things.
Look at, I think his name's James Foley. James Russo. James Foley's a filmmaker. If you don't know those movies.
And he's out.
It did that to him last show and the show before that.
It's 3 in a row.
It's been doing it for the last few shows.
Seth, what were you gonna say?
I honestly do not remember.
Oh, he's back.
Keeps wanting to dump me. That's the third show in a row.
I'm not doing it. Just so you know,
I think
I'm
it's
not
because
doing
I'm
it.
supposed to. Good night. I'll leave.
This is the end.
I see you fuckers.
We were in mid-thought when that happened.
Yeah. Good night.
See you, man.
Yep.
Oh, is he leaving?
Yeah. He just didn't want to come off again. The universe is trying to tell him. He's like, you're supposed to not be a regular anymore.
Okay. What else is there to say about Shocker?
I like it.
I like it too. and I think it's underrated.
I don't think it's underrated because there's so many people who love it. I think I'm the only person I've seen that doesn't like that movie.
Okay, maybe I say it's underrated because everybody I've ever talked to who knows it and has seen it has told me it's a bad movie. But I didn't think about like it's a bad movie, but they like it.
That's what I mean. Like, I've never met anybody that really loves Shocker.
Yeah, I wonder if it's anybody's favorite movie. Like, you know, like is Shocker your who's? I can't imagine
for everything.
There is.
Right. But
Yeah,
like
I
seriously,
see in fan groups there's people who are defending Halloween Resurrection like it's fucking gold. You know.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
sad.
I see people like praise certain things, and I'm like, why? I don't understand. Like, I'll see
Well,
people
people
praise
love
certain. Yeah, I'll see people praise certain like fan films, like, and I'm like, that's not. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it's not like the best thing ever.
Kathy says, what's
know.
on our calendar for next week? I'm not sure yet. We haven't quite decided.
Candyman, right?
Well, then we're leaving Jared out.
Maybe a commentary?
Yeah, I think we may do. If it depends on the schedules of Seth T. Miller and Keith, but we may do a little side hustle show to talk about Candyman after, because I'm seeing it more than likely Saturday.
You
Same here.
motherfuckers.
Yeah,
Jared, I sent you a message and you never responded.
Jared doesn't respond to messages.
I don't.
But
I mean,
yeah.
I would love,
So what?
I mean, I would love to even just talk about even like the older Candyman movies or 1 and 2.
we
at
ever?
least, you know.
Have
I
we
don't
ever?
think I think they've come up in like conversations like the decade defining stuff. Like I think we've brought up Candyman because it's like a '90s.
It's
Yeah.
definitely
Year
a
movie.
decade. It's definitely a decade-defining movie.
In my opinion, it's the
And-
best movie of the '90s.
What? Over Scream?
Yeah, I like it better than Scream. It's one of my favorite top 5.
Shots fired.
Hey, by the way, so one of our big bosses came in, Jared. I wanted to tell you about this. And he was going around trying to meet and greet people because he's from Chicago. And he's like, tell me how long you've been with the company and tell me your favorite movie. And Jake went first. And Jake, he's like, oh, I've been with the company 11 years or whatever. And he's like, oh,
Hill of the Living Dead.
that's what I was expecting. But he said, Fulci's first one. Fuck.
City
City of the Living Dead. I'm like, what? I looked at him like, what? I just said Star Wars, but anyway.
Was the boss guy like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, he looked at him and Jake's like, I love my Italian horror. I'm like, oh, Jesus, Jake. Let's do Candyman. Let's talk about Candyman and the sequels next week, and then if you guys are up for it, we'll do a sideshow on the new one. I'm super excited about.
I was gonna say I should be good to go on the new one if you guys want to do one on the new one.
You're just throwing us through a loop today.
I am. I am.
I definitely want to talk about because I am gonna watch the Candyman movie at some point this weekend.
Yeah.
Though the kids are staying with Grandma and Grandpa, so we'll figure out if my theater is staying open because Illinois is getting lockdown happy right now. So, which I'm actually kind of in support of. But Candyman of some kind.
Yeah, I'll be watching all 4 of them this weekend. So
Yeah, I have never opened my Day of the Dead DVD, so I may open that. Also, I think on Thursday when we do our show, we're going to start at 7 instead of 6:30 or 8 on the East Coast. That way Jared doesn't have to rush in. Russian. Are you Russian?
Yeah.
are you Russian?
Hey, Vladimir. What's up, comrade? Yeah, so I think we're gonna start when
If he dies, he dies.
guys. Nate, we did 6:30, 7:30 Eastern for Nate, and if Nate's not going to be on the show, we'll go back to 7. Nice round number, 8 Eastern, whatever. Me and Jared live in the Midwest, so. But yeah, does anyone know if Candyman is going? No, it's not.
Theaters
Don't
only.
HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's not. I wish. Because
Theaters only. And if you're scared to go to a theater, look at an auditorium where you can select seats. You can see if anybody's going to be there.
Candyman is not going to be on HBO Max, Scott.
Because that's what I do when I go to the theaters. I look at auditoriums like before the movie starts, see if anybody's bought seats. If it's empty, then it's empty.
Right now, yeah. Right now, actually, go ahead, Scott. While I'll do this.
I mean, theaters they have the social distancing. So a lot of theaters have hand sanitizer. They clean, and not to mention, not a lot of people are going to the movies these days.
Every time I go, I'm like the only person.
Well, exactly. Like when me and Amber, when we went to go see the Suicide Squad, we're the only two people in the theater.
Yep.
Really?
You know?
I haven't been there since Black Widow, so I'm wondering if it's any different. Since Black Widow, because Black Widow, it was full. The theater was full.
See, all of my theaters, like they even have seats like people aren't allowed to sit in, so it's separated. And then they have like this big sanitizing like fog machine. They have this big fog machine that shoots like sanitized fog, so it like hits everything.
What?
Yeah, we have it at work too. It's like a big fog machine, but it's sanitation stuff.
So this is.
Did you sit there in the fog?
No. Just sitting there like.
Did you get stabbed in the back? So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the show I'm thinking about going. There's only 4 seats taken up.
Yep.
So
that sounds about right. Yeah,
it's either that or there's that's at 3:30. I love going to the theater and coming out when it's still light outside.
Daylight. Your eyes are like fuck.
I don't know, man. I love it because then it's like, oh, there's so much more time to do stuff. But then the 5 o'clock show, I don't think has any seats taken up yet.
I made the mistake to see went and saw The Green Knight at like 9:30. I got out of there at like midnight, and I was like, I'm dead.
Yeah, I don't like to go home and go right to bed. You know, I like to digest what I just saw, and see the 5 o'clock show, but that's also a $3 price hike. So it goes from.
I know it's not horror, but did you like The Green Knight?
I didn't hate it, but it's one of those movies I need to watch again to fully understand, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's very beautiful movie, and I like a lot of the acting in it, but like the way it's told to you and like the old English and stuff like that, like I need to rewatch it again to like fully understand what in the hell happened.
It's an A24 movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing that's making me want to see it. Scott asks, has anybody seen Don't Breathe 2 yet? I have not. I know it's out. I haven't seen the first one.
I'm going this weekend.
I have no idea what that even is.
I'm going this weekend. Night House, I didn't realize was out yet until earlier. I kind of want to see it.
Are you doing a double feature?
Probably.
Oh, and based on your notification, I'm gonna do.
What just happened? Are you okay, Jared?
I'm cutting out. I'm sorry. the last matinee you were talking about, Keith, based off of your notification, I'm gonna look into that one for sure.
Yeah, I got it pre-ordered at Best Buy right now.
What's pre-ordered at Best Buy?
Last Matinee. It's that like a Italian.
It's an Italian-Spanish slasher film, but it's like really good on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a. Yeah. It's supposed to be like a. Like the people who made it are fans of like your guys' like favorite Italian.
So people. Like the editor.
Yes. Italian. Yes.
I'm not an Italian horror person, so I don't know people's names. But this movie looks cool, and I want to watch it.
It's like a slasher film, but it's Italian.
Maybe you should. Because Giallos are more like slasher mystery movies.
Maybe I need to watch those.
I just watched a movie called Your Vice is a Locked Room, and Only I Have the Key. I think that's the name of it.
It's a long ass name.
It's really good though. It's on Shudder. It was all in Italian, but I loved it. Yeah, I just got it on Blu-ray, but I watched it on Shudder beforehand. So, I actually got a big ass haul I need to do a video for, but I've been lazy as fuck.
It's kind of slow, like a lot of the giallos, but payoff is well worth it.
Maybe
most of them are. Yeah.
look up the trailer, Scott. Just go to YouTube and look up Last Matinee trailer. It has other names too, like Last Call. It has like 3 different titles.
Well, that's just like an Italian movie.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, let's wrap up for the night. You guys, final thoughts on Shocker before we go? I may never watch it again.
I like it. It's got potential. It needs a remake or a sequel.
Okay. Are you gonna watch it again?
Probably.
Are you gonna create your own box art?
No, I've got Nathan's.
True.
I do kind of want to like try and edit it though, like edit out the silly stuff. I think it'd be fun.
Give it a shot. I'll watch your cut. The deep cut of Shocker. I mean, people do shit all the time and throw it on YouTube. Like that. I've seen the Star Wars prequels all merged into one of what matters. And
There's
it's like 30 minutes of episode 1 and episode 2, and then the rest is episode 3.
I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a big cut of episode 3 and the last episode of last season of Clone Wars cut together.
No, I haven't. That's cool.
It's really cool.
Final thoughts on Shocker, Seth. Shocker, Seth. Oh.
It's a movie. Like I said before, it's a movie I've always liked. It's not one of my favorite Craven movies. It's sort of like in the middle of the list for me, I believe. But it is very flawed. It's like you guys said. It's a bad movie, but I still have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Keith. I would like to see a remake. And I mean, with the exception of Nightmare on Elm Street, there's a pretty good track record of remakes of Craven's films. I mean, Hills Have Eyes, and I even like The Last House on the Left remake. And you guys know how I feel about that original film.
Yeah.
So I would like. I don't care for the original Last House on the Left at all.
I own it. I'm not a big fan either.
I saw it once. I'm glad I did, but I haven't watched it in the 20 years since I've watched it for the first time.
That's about the same with me. I bought it in like 2002 or something like that, and I haven't watched it since.
Yeah.
Christy, good luck. Hope you don't get swept away with the hurricane.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Be safe.
And how do you pronounce your last
safe.
name? I'm curious. Anyway, Seth.
Yeah. Oh, I was just I like we talked about, there's a lot of potential with Shocker. I think there's a lot of really good and interesting ideas in it that I think could make for a really good movie if maybe the story and the rules were a little bit tighter, if things were a little bit more clear. But it is what it is. It's not the worst Craven movie in my opinion.
And what is?
We've talked about Last House on the Left.
Last House on the Left.
I'd rather watch Vampire in Brooklyn. Let's just put it that way.
Ooh, shots fired.
All right. Final thoughts, Gerard, Mr. Pinker.
No, I don't disagree with Seth on his what is the worst Craven movie, but this is definitely not his worst. For most of you guys that are watching now haven't watched the last couple of seasons. I guess I call them seasons,
Yeah.
But Shocker comes pretty close to my heart, near and dear, but I'm not going to go into that. But it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I own it on cassette and CD, the soundtrack, which is Amazing Balls.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, kind of like what we were discussing tonight. Like, this could have been something bigger than it was, but I think Craven, was trying to jump on to the. I'm sorry. My chest hurts a little bit.
in TV
Basically,
bandwagon.
basically the way I look at it is Craven was like trying to get on top of the Friday. Anyways,
You all right?
no,
Well-
I'm not. I'm actually kind of losing it right now.
Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap up the show. Somebody's knocking on my door. They know better.
No, it's
Anyway,
fine.
we'll be back next week. And
I'm gonna cry my fucking eyes out.
What did you see? Something disgusting?
No, this movie just means way too much to me.
Oh, I think you said claw your eyes out.
That's what
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
about to
buddy.
say, too.
I know.
He did a hard job trying to create something different from the Freddy genre. He wanted to make a franchise completely different. Like, everybody knew him as that. Like, there was no way this movie was going to do good at all. Like, that's the one thing we haven't talked about. Like, this movie was doomed to fail before it even happened, like, because the way he wanted to do it. He wanted to create a completely different franchise from Friday the 13th. Why do I keep saying that?
I know, Elm Street, because you love Friday the 13th.
I do.
Who doesn't?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was trying to create something completely different, and it's never going to add up even remotely close to what he created. And it showed up in the middle of the 90s, like we already discussed with the soundtrack. I have it on cassette, I have it on CD. I love hair metal bands. I'm a metal band fan. Seth's taking a nice little toot. Anyway, this movie, and I've said it like 3 times over the entire time we've done this, it's not a good movie. Not at all. But he stationed it right before he did Scream. He was trying to create another franchise after Nightmare, and it didn't work out. And he got fucked over, apparently, but he made a fuck ton of money when it came to Scream. But in my opinion, Horace Pinker could have been a character that could have actually had a franchise had it been not necessarily so corny.
Yeah, he could have been a horror icon right now.
Yeah. Bigger
I'm
than
sorry
you.
for that being too long.
No, you're good. It's all good, man.
No.
No.
Well, we'll just wrap it up then. If you haven't seen Shocker, check it out. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but Scream Factory does have it available on Blu-ray. And that's it. That's the show for this evening. We'll see you on Thursday. And hopefully talk about some Candyman. Either way, I think we're going to talk about Candyman. Whatever Candyman there is. 4 different Candyman movies. So I'm going to go give my kids some food because they keep knocking on the door. And we'll talk to you guys next week. You guys all have a great evening. And Christy, be safe. Be safe down there. Hopefully you don't get swept away.
Don't listen to me anymore.
No. We love you, Jared. Anyway, have a great evening. We'll see you next week, everyone.